Good afternoon, students. We want to talk today about plagiarism. It seems like there's been a lot of confusion about plagiarism, and this video will help you understand what plagiarism is and how to avoid it so you don't get those messages from me and you can just zoom through the rest of the assignments. I want to talk about two kinds of plagiarism that occur in my classes. One is copying and pasting from a source without using quotes, and then two is when you paraphrase something from a different source and you don't cite your source. And I'll also give you a website that will show you how to create your citation, how to cite your source. So it's really easy, it's not that complicated, but it's something maybe you weren't taught in school and we need to clarify that. Okay, so real fast, let's say you're taking my U.S. history class and the question is describe the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So we go to the internet, we've watched the videos, we've read the text, and we just don't understand it, right? We're like, we're going to look at something else. We're going to look out on the interwebs and see what's out there. So you leave and you go to Google and you type in the bombing of Pearl Harbor, okay? So from that you go to the History Channel. So we come here and you read this. Just before 8 a.m. on December 7th, 1941, hundreds of Japanese fighter planes attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor near Honolulu, Hawaii. The barrage lasted just 2 hours, but it was devastating. The Japanese managed to destroy nearly 20 American naval vessels, including 8 enormous battleships and almost 20 airplanes. More than 2,000 American soldiers and sailors died in the attack, and another 1,000 were wounded. And then it goes on. And you could read the entire article. You could go on, and you could read all of this really interesting information. But let's just say you read this first part and you're like, oh, I get it. I know what the bombing of Pearl Harbor was, right? Because they're going to tell you in this first sentence. So we're going to pretend like this is your lesson. You use Microsoft Word or OpenOffice to do your lessons in. So you sit back and you think about, okay, well, what you just read, and you put it into your own words. And you say, the bombing of Pearl Harbor occurred on December 7th, 1941. Japan dropped bombs on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor. That's what it's about, right? And these are your own words. It doesn't look like this. Just before 8 a.m. on December 7th, 1941. Now, you did use the date, right? You wrote December 7th, 1941. But that's common knowledge and it's a date. You don't have to put quotes around a date. So you wrote this in your own words, but you found this quote, you found this information, these facts to be really important, and you want to include them. So you can say, according to history.com, 20 American naval vessels, including 8 enormous battleships and almost 200 airplanes, blah, 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 blah. So this portion, you took word for word. You need to tell me that, hey, I didn't write this. And you do that by using quotes. These red right here. So you wrote this, didn't write this. The bombing of Pearl Harbor is what finally caused America to join the war. Now you have to cite your source. Okay? You got all of this information from the history.com. Very simple, very easy. You need this web address right here, not www.google or Bing, this web address. Copy. And you're going to go to this fantastic, super easy website. It's www.easybib.com right here. Now, we are going to be using the MLA style. That's what you use in high school. If you go to graduate school, you use APA or Chicago. But right now in high school, you use MLA. So make sure that MLA is checked. We're going to use a website. If you use a book, which, you know, I love books, you can do that. If you're doing a printed newspaper or a journal, it has all 59 options. So if you were citing a photograph, you can go here, all sorts of this. But for most of your work, you're going to be using a website. So you take this and you paste it, right? You put it here and you hit cite it. Couldn't be easier than that, right? So it's going to generate information about what it found. And it's saying, okay, I could find this. I found the title, the article title, where it was published, and the date you accessed it. but it wasn't able to find this information. It wasn't able to find the date it was electronically published, and it wasn't able to find the authors. So you hit continue. Okay? And you're going to come here, and it's going to autofill all of this information. So how fabulous is that? Now, it wasn't able to find the author, so you can go back to your website that you were looking at. Usually, oh, here, look, you could have hit cite it. That's simpler, but in case it doesn't have that. Usually the author's at the bottom. So let's see if we can find the author. We cannot. It doesn't tell us that information right away. And it does not tell us when it was electronically published. You could, sometimes it'll say it down here. It would be interesting to see if you hit cite it, it probably would put it in their citation. But if you can't find the author and you can't find the date published, that's okay. It can generate it without it. Here's something really important. You have the option of giving me the URL, giving me the web address, or not. Please make sure that yes is checked, so that's included in your citation. I need it to check your work. Okay, so make sure yes is checked, and then here on the orange, you're going to hit create citation. And ta-da! How amazing is that? It's going to give you what you need. You don't have to format it. All you have to do is copy, go back to your lesson, and put your source. Okay? So this is what it should look, your answers should look like this. You should have paraphrasing your information if you want to use something from the source, like if it's facts or something you just can't figure, just a quote or something, use quote, and then cite your source. So let's say, even if you did not have a quote, let's say you didn't have this, and it was just this. You absolutely have to have this. You have to tell me, hey, I didn't get it from the lesson, I put it in my own words, but this is where I found the information. Okay? So even if you don't have a quote, you must provide your source. Okay? So, for example, let's say, here's your source. You could have rewritten this a million different ways. Let's say I read it and I rewrote it this way. Japan bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941 in one of the most devastating attacks on a naval base, dragging America into the war. Again, this is different than this, just as this is different than this. So you don't want to copy and paste everything. You really want to achieve, your goal is to learn how to paraphrase and get to here. But if you have this, if you have, and you didn't, you have to do that, right? Tell me where you went. You may go to 4 or 5 different sources. Sometimes I get, probably not when you're answering questions for U.S. history, but if you're writing a paper or something, you're going to go to lots of different sources, and that's how you end up with a long list of sources. If you're taking U.S. history, the very last page is my works cited page, and it tells you all the different sources that I had to use to get those that information, whether it was pictures or maps. It's listed there. Okay, so that is how you do it. This website is amazing. You don't have to memorize where all of the different commas go or where the different quotation marks go. It does it for you. So there are lots of different types of plagiarism. This particular website, plagarism.org, it goes into very specific things about what causes plagiarism or what plagiarism is. So for example, the clone, that's when you copy and you paste. Control-C is where you copy and paste like the entire paragraph, and you go through and you just take out certain words and replace certain words. Not your own words. You didn't write it. Remix is when you take pieces from one web page and you take pieces from another and you push them together and you don't make any effort to put it in your own words. So there's all of these different kinds of plagiarism, but the goal is to read the material and then think about it, right? Because you have to understand it. You're going to have to take that test. If you're taking U.S. history, you're going to have to take that test at the end of the course. And if you just copied and pasted and didn't really think about it and didn't really make it your own, you're not going to remember it at the end of the course. For other classes, for example, in government, you have to write a lot of current events, right? Every lesson you have to read an article and then you have to summarize it. I get a lot of this. Two men were charged Thursday in connection with terror plot in Australia's Prime Minister said it involved plans to carry out a public execution. Yes, that is what the article is about. But you need to read the entire article and summarize the entire article differently than the way they did. So you could include better details. You could include information that they don't include. So it's important that you read all of the article. She wrote a whole 2 or 3 scroll downs. So you're going to have to read all of it to summarize it. I don't want the headline. I don't want the byline. This is what they call a byline in journalism. I want the whole article needs to be summarized and cited with a full MLA citation using EasyBib. For economics, you have to read an article and you have to summarize it. Again, you need to summarize the entire article, not just pieces of it. And then you have to tell me what your opinion is on how it relates back to economics. Everything relates to economics. So again, make sure that if you're reading an article for economics that you read the whole thing and not just the beginning, not just the end, but you read all of it. All right, that is what you need to do for my class. Please do this lesson. I'm not going to let you turn in anything, so if you turn in a lesson, I'm going to say please do the lesson on plagiarism first. There are questions that go with your class, and I look forward to getting those lessons. If you have any questions, please come to office hours today or send me a teacher message and I'll do my best to help you out. Have a great rest of your day.